You turn on your camera. Yep. And the voice also.
Halo semuanya. Oke.
Wait, see?
Good, Nasia.
Okay, shall we start?
Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to our webinar program. And my name is Mỹ, and I'm the IT at the SEAMEO RETRAC Vietnam. SEAMEO RETRAC is one of the SEAMEO center in the region. SEAMEO RETRAC hosts a webinar since 2018 in collaboration with its sister center SEAMEO Simolex, Indonesia. We are now in our webinar series 2020. This is our 8th lecture in our webinar series 2020. And our topic for today is culturally responsive teaching. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Our webinar is video recorded. Please watch and listen to the video. The video takes less than 30 minutes. For your comments and questions while the video is played or after watching the video, please type them in the control panel. I will bring them up to our later. The video will follow with the question and answer portion. And now without further ado, I will introduce to you our lecturer. Our lecturer is Dr. Anita Oblina. Dr. Anita obtained a doctorate degree in educational planning and management in the Philippines. She holds the post of the senior education specialist at SEAMEO RETRAC. For a number of years now, she has been working as curriculum developer, instructional material designer, trainer, researcher, and lecturer. She is very passionate to advance the leadership and management skill of the teachers, school leader, administrator, and school official in Southeast Asia region required in the rapid and dynamic change of the learning environment in Asia and beyond. Now, Dr. Anita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Miss Me, for your kind introduction.
To all our participants, welcome to our webinar today with the topic Culturally Responsive Teaching. Culturally responsive teaching is a pedagogy that recognizes the importance of including students' cultural references in all aspects of learning. Understanding students' lives can help teachers foster a sense of belongingness and ensure that all students feel respected and challenged. In this regard, I would like to invite you to watch and listen to the video and identify the key points highlighted in my presentation. I then look forward to your insights, opinions, questions, and experience you would like to share after watching the video. So, let us now play the video.
Hi, everyone. Welcome again to our webinar 2020. The topic of our webinar today is culturally responsive teaching. Today, we are going to learn the following key points. What is culturally responsive teaching? What are the characteristics of culturally responsive teaching and how to apply in class? And how can a teacher become culturally responsive? To start, what is culturally responsive teaching? Culturally responsive teaching is about building the learning capacity of the individual student of different ethnic, cultural, or linguistic backgrounds by creating a learning environment conducive to all students, regardless of color, belief, and socioeconomic status. To build the learning capacity of the students, teachers must connect teaching content to the cultural backgrounds of their students. According to research, teaching that ignores student norms of behavior and communication provokes student resistance. On the other hand, teaching that is responsive prompts student involvement. How do you know that your teaching is culturally responsive? The simplest way to judge whether your teaching is culturally responsive is whether your diverse students are learning. How do you know that your students are learning? Your students are learning when they change from not knowing to knowing. Learning is change. Take note, if they are not succeeding academically within your classroom norms, your approach might need to be more culturally responsive. Change your approach to culturally responsive. To understand better culturally responsive teaching, we are going to discuss its characteristics. Let's proceed to the second key point. What are the characteristics of culturally responsive teaching and how to apply in your class? The number of authors, including Gay and Lippmann, have identified 6 characteristics of culturally responsive teaching as follows. 1. Validating. Culturally responsive teaching is validating and affirming because it acknowledges the strengths of students' diverse heritages. Validating means using the cultural knowledge of different ethnic groups that affect students' dispositions, attitudes and behaviors, prior experiences, and performance styles to make learning more appropriate and effective for them. How to apply in your class? Literature in the classroom would reflect multiple ethnic perspectives and literary genres. Math instruction would incorporate everyday life concepts such as economics, employment, consumer habits of various ethnic groups. 2. Comprehensive. Culturally responsive teaching is comprehensive because it uses culturally resources to teach knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes. Culturally responsive teachers develop intellectual, social, emotional, and political learning by using cultural reference to impart knowledge, skills, and attitudes. It is about teaching the whole child. How to apply in your class? Instill in your students that they are part of a more collective effort designed to encourage academic and cultural excellence. Clearly express expectations and skills to be taught. Ask students to behave like members of an extended family, assisting, supporting, and encouraging each other. Let them feel accountable as part of a larger group, and it is everyone's task to make certain that each individual member of the group is successful. Exhibit interpersonal relations. The entire class is expected to rise together, and it is in the best interest of everyone to ensure that each individual member of the group is successful. No one is left behind. 3. Multidimensional. Culturally responsive teaching is multidimensional because it encompasses many areas and applies multicultural theory to the classroom environment, teaching methods, and evaluation. Multidimensional culturally responsive teaching involves curriculum, learning context, classroom climate, student-teacher relationships, instructional techniques, and performance assessments. How to apply in your class? Teachers from various disciplines, language arts, science, social studies, music, may collaborate in teaching a single cultural concept, such as bullying, war, equity, teenage pregnancy, and more. Let students participate actively in their own performance evaluations. 4. Empowering. Culturally responsive teaching empowers students, giving them opportunities to excel in the classroom and beyond. Empowerment translates into academic competence, personal confidence, courage, and the will to act. Culturally responsive teaching enables students to be better human beings and more successful learners. Empowerment can be described as academic competence, self-efficacy, and initiative. How to apply it in class? Demonstrate ambitious and appropriate expectations and exhibit support for students in their efforts toward academic achievement. Show students that you expect them to succeed and commit themselves to making success happen. Empower students to succeed in learning tasks and willingness to pursue success relentlessly until mastery is obtained. 5. Transformative. Culturally responsive teaching is transformative because educators and their students must often defy educational traditions and the status quo. Transformative means respecting the cultures and experiences of various groups and then uses these as resources for teaching and learning. Transformative appreciates the existing strengths and accomplishments of all students and develops them further in instruction. Transformative develops social consciousness, intellectual critique, and political efficacy in students so that they can combat prejudices, racism, and other forms of oppression and exploitation. How to apply in your class? Use storytelling that is unique among students in informal social interactions to teach speaking skills and writing skills, for example. Provide ethnic groups who prefer to study in small learning communities with more opportunities for cooperative learning. And 6. Emancipatory. Culturally responsive teaching. Step 3, restructure your classroom environment. According to researchers Catherine Edmonds and Catherine Bosman, 2010, motivation has frequently made the difference between learning that was temporary and superficial and learning that was permanent and internalized. If you want your students to continue to learn, they need to get connected to your lessons. They need to want to learn. If your classroom atmosphere is rigid, students work quietly, restless, and disengaged. Make lessons that include partner work. Reduce the number of homework assignments and create project-based learning units. This means that only homework you assign is connected to real-world, applicable products. These types of experiences help students find purpose in their learning, and they come to class wanting to learn. You have created a classroom environment that empowers students to want to learn. Reducing the homework load also relieves some of the students from the stress of finding time to do homework because many of them work jobs after school or take care of younger siblings. You are culturally responsive teacher. Learning is liberating. And step 4, be transparent. For many cultures, being transparent is a true sign of respect. Be transparent as possible with students and parents. If you're unsure of something, tell them. Create calendars, daily agendas, and standards. Provide copies for students and parents. Email parents calendars and classroom updates. For parents without email addresses, make phone calls when students seem to need some extra encouragement from home. Contacting parents when students did well is also just as important as contacting parents for concerns. This communication alleviates confusion, helping parents understand how to best help their children through the learning process. By doing things like this, you earn students' respect, which helps nurture a positive classroom culture. To truly embrace culturally responsive teaching is to move away from an insensitive, archaic system and foster a culture of diverse inclusion. By doing so, your students' knowledge grows, and in turn, you advance your own cultural growth. To restate, the 4 steps to becoming culturally responsive teachers are: know your students, choose engaging texts, restructure your classroom environment, and be transparent. I have just presented to you the 3 key points about culturally responsive teaching. I would like to close my presentation with Professor Geneva Gay, an advocate of culturally responsive teaching, 6 dimensions of culturally responsive teachers as follows. 1. Culturally responsive teachers are socially and academically empowering by setting high expectations for students with a commitment to every student's success. 2. Culturally responsive teachers are multidimensional because they engage cultural knowledge, experiences, contributions, and perspectives. 3. Culturally responsive teachers validate every student's culture, bridging gaps between school and home through diversified instructional strategies and multicultural curricula. 4. Culturally responsive teachers are socially, emotionally, and politically comprehensive as they seek to educate, the whole child. 5. Culturally responsive teachers are transformative of schools and societies by using students' existing strengths to drive instruction, assessment, and curriculum design. And 6. Culturally responsive teachers are emancipatory and liberating from oppressive educational practices and ideologies as they lift the veil of presumed absolute authority from conception of scholarly truth typically taught in schools. That ends my presentation of the topic culturally responsive teaching. I hope you learned something from this webinar and you can apply it in your school, in your own context. Thank you for joining us today.
Alright, we have just finished watching the video. We will go ahead to our Q&A. Yep. Thank you, Dr. Anita. We will go ahead to take some time for question now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your question in the Q&A dialog. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And now we are open for question and answer. So we have one question now.
This is, what is the role of ethics in the higher education institution in the post-pandemic new normal setting?
Okay, this is a very interesting question. You're asking about ethics, the role of ethics in the higher education institution in the post-pandemic new normal setting. Indeed, I would say in the post-normal, in the post-pandemic, in the new normal setting, there are lots of changes that would happen because, again, it's a new normal. There are challenges as well. There are norms that may be quite challenging yet interesting to address the challenge of the post-pandemic. And we know right now what's happening. Education is affected, and face-to-face learning is really a challenge. So we are doing now like online training, online teaching. We could even hardly have the blended learning. So after which, when everything is set, like we come back to the new normal setting, again, challenges are real. Struggle is real. Ethics really plays a very important role. How do we manage ourselves? How do we do things right? And how do we address, to the new standards, to the new norms, perhaps new curriculum? So we've got to really be resilient, and we get to be, I would say, open-minded and open to communication. We get to respect as well as share our ideas and thoughts. It does not make us less person, but it will give us strength to be able to cooperate and collaborate and do things in a nice way. We could not just afford to, be aggressive. Like criticizing, what's happening, or maybe if there are new norms, we can air out our ideas, we can share our opinions. At the same time, we are open to what is the challenge and address the challenge the way we are expected to as professionals. Okay, I hope I have answered your question. Are there other questions? Now, if my answer is not clear, you can follow it up.
Yep, we have one more question. How can we create a culturally responsive teaching environment in the elementary grades in this time of pandemic?
A very interesting question. That's really a challenge for us, to apply culturally responsive teaching now during this time when we could hardly meet each other. We could not meet our students face to face for some schools. Though I understand that other schools are opening other countries, for example, are opening their schools in a face to face level. Like here in Vietnam, um, schools are open and students are going to schools and they are meeting their teachers face to face. But in some other countries like Philippines, I understand that face-to-face teaching and learning is not yet applied. So how can we apply culturally responsive teaching environment in such a situation? I think one way to empower our students in our online learning, for example, is to be able to show to them that we care for them, to be able to communicate to them, to follow up them online, to let them feel that they are very important and to know their families. We can, like teachers, can communicate to parents, to talk to parents, to the members of the family, and to the kids, to the children. At this point in time, our children really need to be understood and to be cared for. I think I have mentioned in my presentation that the center point, the core point of culturally responsive teaching is caring. We care for our students, regardless of their culture, regardless of their color, their belief, their socioeconomic status. We show to them that we cared for them, that they are very important in the learning process, that we want them to know, to learn, to be able to appreciate life and to be able to relate to others well. We want to build their personality as well. How? By teaching them well and effectively the subject that we are teaching them, incorporating values as well. Caring is a very good value. Respect and listening to them are good attributes that we can instill in our students.
Yep, and we have another question is how to use culturally response teaching in a modular distant learning mode.
Again, I didn't have that question. Sorry. Okay, so this is from Hijar Radef Ed. Thank you so much. How to use culturally responsive teaching in a modular distance learning mode? That's a very interesting question. Um, Again, I'd like to remind you that when we use culturally responsive teaching, there are 6 characteristics that we keep in mind when we deliver the lesson to our students, either in modular, distance learning, or in a face-to-face learning mode. The 6 characteristics of culturally responsive teaching that are embedded when we teach the subject are the following. It must be comprehensive. Students understand so much what we are teaching. It must be validating. We use the cultural references, we use the experience of our students to teach the target subject. It must be transformative so that when students understand, the students is going to be transformed from not knowing to knowing, transformative. It must be emancipatory. Students feel that they are liberated. It's not very strict, you know, but we are giving our students a leeway, a space to learn and to appreciate the subject. It must be empowering. Students then are empowered. They feel competency. They have the initiative to practice what they have learned. So then there, if we are going to embed those 6 characteristics of culturally responsive teaching in modular distance learning mode or in the face-to-face learning mode, we are culturally responsive teachers. Question is, how do we do it in the distance, in modular distance learning mode? Again, the point here is that we cannot see our students. I mean, not face to face, but we are going to talk to them online, right? So along with that, as I mentioned earlier in that in the question that I have answered a while ago, we let our students feel that they are cared for. We communicate to them regularly, do the follow-up. We don't meet them during our lesson, just during the lecture time. But we can meet them through chatting, through texts, and other forms of communicating and reaching out to them to let them feel that we care for them, that they are important. Then there, you are culturally responsive. Because all people, regardless of color, belief, and socioeconomic status, would like to feel that they are loved, that they are cared for, and that they are important. Okay? I hope I have answered your question. Okay, so there's another question from Dewey. Good morning. Okay, good morning too. Post theories that can be used as references in creating an evaluation template to measure the effectiveness of culturally responsive teaching. I am using the theories of Gay 2010, and Lippmann. They are the advocates of culturally responsive teaching. So I guess you can refer to them when you would like to do some evaluation, of measuring the effectiveness of culturally responsive teaching. I think I have mentioned these 2 advocates of culturally responsive teaching in my presentation. And you will receive um, the PowerPoint presentation, the material later. We're going to share with you the material PowerPoint copy, so you can also look at them, can use those theories I mentioned there. Okay, may you name one research-based culturally responsive teaching strategy in the new normal setting? In the new normal setting, hmm, in the new normal setting, I'm sorry, I could not, I'm sorry, I could not name, I have not yet encountered. What I have done research is not the new normal, that's before the pandemic. I'm sorry. Maybe we can find. I will try to do research on that and I can share with you. Okay, this is one from Elmer Milan, Philippines. Okay, good morning. Good morning, sir. Wow. What can you advise to the teachers when parents mingle in the actual teaching? Oh, very interesting question. Hmm. This is really quite challenging if the teachers are already kind of intruding the actual teaching. Now, for me, if I were the teacher, I can tell parents to, I mean, privately maybe that I can tell the parents to have a conversation. I mean, there should be a communication between teachers and the parents regarding this concern. Uh, in my case, teaching is beyond the parents, I would say, rights. When I am teaching in my class, it's mine. I don't appreciate like parents mingling the actual teaching unless parents are invited. Okay. There are cases when parents are experts of the field that I am teaching, then I can invite parents to be the guests, to add on inputs maybe during the presentation of uh, the lesson or maybe during the question answer. But in that case, if parents will just come and mingle and interfere, that would be another case. And in that aspect, I advise the teachers to um, tap the shoulder of the parents and then tell the parents to have a dialogue. There must be a communication, a conversation, and let the parents understand. Okay? So again, I don't tolerate parents mingling in my actual teaching, but communicate. Tell the parents. I hope I have shared with you my idea about your question. Okay. Any questions? You can follow up. Can follow up your question if you would like to talk. Maybe you can also use your phone. You can you can directly address your questions to me. Do we have questions? We don't have questions.
Okay, it look we cover on our question, Dr. Anita. Is there anything else you want to cover before wrap up?
I think it looks like we have covered all our questions.
Have one more question, I think.
Okay. What is it?
You will answer on the question. From Ian, may I ask what is the requirement for the completion of this course?
Okay, thank you, Ayan. Now you are going the requirement. This is just one requirement, and it's a very simple requirement. They are going to answer one question, very easy and very practical question. The assignment questions will be posted right after our webinar session. And you are given 1 week to do the assignment and submit that then to the link. I think the steps, the procedure is also posted for you to follow. So that's it. The assignment will be posted right after this webinar session. Did I answer you, Ian? Okay, there is another question. Shall we allow parents to take videos while we are conducting remedial instruction during our home visitation? Wow, very challenging question. Mm, the home visitation during this pandemic session, I guess it's very professional. I mean, it has its purpose, right? But parents are going to take videos during that session, during the remedial instruction. That's quite awful. I mean, it depends. It depends, I would say. But if you are asking me my own view about it, I would say in some issues, in some aspects, maybe it depends on the situation. Either I would say yes or I would say no. But I can also think of this way. You see, video is a documentation, and I should do it myself, that the parents, if I would like to have my visitation, my remedial instruction, or my remedial class documented, then I will do it myself. Not the parents will do it for me. Okay, that's my answer. I will do the video documentation myself, not the parents. If I would like to document, because documentation is very important and very necessary in that sense. Okay. Okay, so there is first question here. I mean, there's another question. There is not any instruction what kind of the assignment to yet, since we have to write the assignment. It's that the assignment is a narrative. It's an open-ended question. And the instructions will be given to you later. Mhm. Okay. The assignment will be given right after our webinar session. I hope it's clear. Thank you for asking. And we have another question here from David Kyle. Thank you for this question, David. Is it advisable to conduct research in culturally responsive teaching in mathematics in the new normal setting? I would say yes, very much yes. Because as I said, I have not done a research using culturally responsive teaching in the new normal setting. Maybe there are, but I have not met yet. And I challenge you to do it. That's very interesting. Really very interesting. From Hijara Deped, can we use a culturally responsive teaching in writing? In what way? Right. Okay, I see your point. We can. We can use culturally responsive teaching in speaking or in writing. And then you have the follow-up question, in what way? Now, either we can use it either in a formal writing or informal writing, in a formal setting or informal setting. Like, for example, maybe in the informal setting, when we send email to parents, we send email to students, we can use culturally responsive language by picking up their own terms, their own language, their own culture. Like, see, we are going to adjust. We are going to adjust our writing style, the language we use, to the kind of, people we communicate. Say, for example, if I am communicating to parents, my language and terms may be different. When I write or communicate to my principal, when I communicate to teachers. my co-teachers. So I have to adjust the kind of terms, language, and the tone of writing to the kind of people I am sending, to people I communicate that is culturally responsive. Just as when we communicate, more so when we communicate to people outside of our countries, communicate to people to the next part of the country. There are terms. We have to be a bit careful of the terms and the tone that we use that is quite maybe sensitive to cultures. Definitely, yes. Formal and informal writing. We can apply culturally responsive terms and language. Okay, another one from Lali. Culturally responsive teaching is the title of this webinar. Yes. Does it mean that we as teachers need to respond to student situation based on our culture? I think I need further explanation. Thank you. Okay. Now I see your point here. When we speak of culturally responsive teaching, I would mean that our way of teaching, the way we deliver the lesson, the way we reach out our students are culturally friendly. It means that we don't, it does not mean that we are going to use our culture and students will follow my culture. If I am a Filipino, this is my style of teaching and this is my style of talking and this is my language, so you, my students, will follow me. That is not what it means by culturally responsive teaching. What it means to be culturally responsive teaching is to understand the culture of our students. Know your students very well. Know who they are, where they come from. And again, when we speak of culture, we are referring to different kinds of culture. Take note that, say, I am a Filipino. I have my Filipino culture, but I understand that this huge culture have also, I would say, subcultures. Though I am a Filipino, but I have my family culture that is different to the general culture of the Filipino people. So there are different cultures within one culture. Okay. So in that sense, even if my students, okay, this is now what I would like to explain. Even if my students are all Filipinos, for example, and you might say, well, we are all Filipinos. Can I use culturally responsive to my teaching when my students are all Filipinos? I would say yes, to some extent. Because though your students are all Filipinos, but they have different families. And their family has its own culture, different from other families. And they also have friends. And we have this friends culture, group of students culture. We've got to understand them. We have to know. That is why know their culture, know their parents. That's being responsive to the culture of our students. Okay. So, what I mean is that, for example, I am teaching in a remote area, or not that remote, not that really remote, maybe in a rural area, I would say. And I have students, and you see, this maybe 50 students. I have 50 students. And these students are coming from different families. How can I be culturally responsive to my students in delivering my lesson? I should know the background of my students. I might visit them and know their families. Maybe some students are working in the field. Some students are going to school hungry. Some students are having siblings they're going to look for after the class. They have different cultures in their family. Now, in that sense, I have to adjust. I have to use my teaching to be friendly to the kind of students I have. Because I would like my teaching to be comprehensive, that they would understand, that they would be able to be empowered, that I would like to tell them that I care for them. Okay? So then, I am friendly to them, so then I am a culturally responsive teacher. Okay? I hope I have answered that question. Okay, from Tian Yulanti. Dear Miss Anita, how to overcome the parents who can't help their children? Where is that one? Where is that? That question. Okay. Who can't help their children because they do not have any knowledge about the materials, or they have to be very busy to work. This is really a big challenge, Jen. I understand. Oh, in that sense, if the parents really do not have the knowledge and could not understand, like you're teaching math and student, I mean, parents do not know, or English and the parents do not know on whatever subjects you are teaching. Um, I say maybe that this time then we can use our vernacular, our own terms, our own language. It's so difficult because at the same time you are still teaching the parents, and in that case, um, to help parents do that, maybe just tell your parents to help their students be attentive to the class and do their assignments and do their work. They could not help the assignments of their children in that aspect since they don't know the lesson. But I think what parents can do is to encourage their students to learn and to create an atmosphere that is friendly for the students to learn more. Just the moral support of the parents, and the parents are open to teachers also teaching their children. So that's the only way. I cannot find ways, to help parents who don't know. We cannot also teach parents, both parents and students at the same time. But what parents will do is really to encourage and to support their children to study the lessons, or maybe find somebody else to help. Or there are also parents who are busy to work. Now, in this case, if parents have the knowledge but they are busy to work, and this is another thing. I guess if the parents are knowledgeable, but then only that they have their schedule to work, they can always find time, I guess, to tutor their students, I mean their children. If they feel really education is very important, I guess along with that, teachers are going really to help and to let the parents understand their important role, because it's not all the teacher's job. Education is collaborative, it's a cooperative thing. So parents and teachers cooperate and collaborate for the success of the learning process of their children. Okay. Can you cite an example on how to apply? What is that? This one. From Ayan. Can you cite example on how to apply culture responsive teaching in teaching mathematics? Okay, now in teaching mathematics, I guess you can apply culturally responsive teaching by letting the students understand the problem in math in the language that they can understand better. Maybe you can cite, I'm not a math teacher, but I am visualizing. Maybe you can use what has been experienced by students in their culture. You can use authentic materials, real materials to explain math, the problem. Use, I guess you use the language that they would appreciate and they would understand. I know, for example, that math really is quite, for some students, complex because it's not used daily. So to be culturally responsive in teaching math is, of course, to be caring to the students and to use the terms and language that speak to their culture. You use examples and illustrations that speak to their culture. Like, for example, you can say, you use how many eggs, for example, just eggs, because they may be particular. I mean, it's their culture. They see what are eggs, but maybe you cannot, just an example, you cannot use examples of cake because they might not have seen piece of cake yet. I mean, that's just an example of how culture responsive is. Use the samples and illustrations that are real to your students and they would appreciate and they would understand. Then you are culturally responsive. Okay. Miss Obinia, Philippines. Okay, thank you for this question. In the new normal, both teachers and students adjust. What do you think is the best way? Modular or using different platforms? Huh? Okay, that's true. You are right. Now in the new normal, really, this is a big challenge. Teachers are adjusting. Students are adjusting, especially to classes when face-to-face is not available yet and cannot be applied yet. So what is the best way, modular or another platforms? I guess what is common now in the new normal setting is modular. Because by modular, you will only be like, you have the term to finish and you have a certain limit of time. I think that would be quite manageable. That depends on like how long is your module, but it's already a package of information, a package of teaching and learning, because within that module, you also have your materials. But it's a series of modules, and these modules are spiral, I guess, from the easy module bringing to a bit challenging, and like we have thinking skills, right? From knowledge comprehension to evaluation, synthesis, evaluation, and so on, application. So we get that kind of module in our lesson. So for me, I guess I find modular very helpful. Okay, we have here from Ramonito Ilumbaring. Thank you for this question. Is culturally responsive teaching the same as localization and contextualization? I guess you're right. To some extent, yes. Localized because we are going to use the culture of our students, who they are, what they are doing, what are their practices, to make our teaching authentic and real and meaningful to them. And so we contextualize that in their own context and circumstance. But okay, that's the bottom line. That's the premise. But I would say culturally responsive is going further because culturally responsive really is reaching out to your students, knowing your students, individual students, and create a learning environment that is conducive to them. It is more than localizing and contextualizing the lesson. It is reaching out your individual student. That is culturally responsive teaching. Okay, from Andre Novi, how to get deep inside to our cross culture from our students when our environment are different. Is it possible to get the knowledge of culture from reading their historical stories from online apps or to visit their homes? Is it possible in this pandemic situation? I see your point. It's a big challenge in the pandemic situation to really understand and to really like visit our students in their homes. To some extent, yes, quite challenging. But yeah, you suggest another way of knowing your students is through research. How do we research our students? Maybe one way of knowing our students is to talk to teachers. Like, okay, suppose, okay, I am teaching now third year high school, for example, or senior high. My students are senior high. And I can refer to teachers of my students in the previous years to know my students. That's one way. And another way is meeting the parents, but again, pandemic does not allow it. Um, Reading their historical histories from online apps. It could also be, this is especially if it is about their culture, different culture, you can use that. Visiting their houses, not, I guess, not applicable this time, except to some countries where they have this home visitation for remedial instruction. But reading will do. And talking to your colleagues in the school, to teachers, would also help. And know the profile of your students from the guidance counselor office. Maybe they have their profile. You will be able to know your students and so on. Yeah. But it is good to really know your students, your individual students. That would help you. And doing it, you will be able to help them well. You know their challenges as well. You know their problems. And you can address that, when you deliver your lesson. And another way also is to really talk to your students. If you can have the chance to meet your students in person, it will be good to set aside time to talk each of your students, maybe just briefly. Take time to know them, to know their stories. And students are interested as well to know us. But to be able to really be in good communication, you can also tell your students part of you. I mean, things you would like to share to your students about you, so that they will be more feeling at home with you and they are more open to you. And then they feel that you care for them. Okay. From Agus, Diana, thank you for your question. How to use religion response teaching in distance learning mode? Oh, okay, thank you for this one. How to use religion response teaching in distance learning mode? I I see. Yeah, so you are teaching religion to your students. Mm. We can just, I guess, you know your subject well, and you know what you are teaching, and I guess you would be able to, and the students know what they are learning as well. So you can go ahead. You're teaching about religion using distance learning. I think what is quite important then there, if you are going to apply culturally responsive teaching in your teaching of religion, is to really let the students feel that you care for them, and also use the language and terms that are friendly to them, so that they will be able to understand better, and that they will be empowered to learn more. Okay, so yes, you can use culturally responsive teaching in teaching religion to your students. But as again, as I told you earlier, be kind and be caring, and use the terms and language that your students can understand better and appreciate your subject. So they find your teaching meaningful for them, and they advance their learning process. Thank you so much for your questions. I guess that's the last one question. To all our participants, thank you so much for your questions. I am delighted. Your questions are very interesting and challenging as well. Thank you. And thank you for coming together. Thank you to all. See you in the next webinar. Assessment for student learning in September. Sorry, ka lang po. Okay, so
This would like we cover on our question. Dr. Anita, is there anything else you would want to cover before wrap up?
covered all, and I guess at this point in time, we are going to close our session. But before closing our session, again, my dear participants, thank you so much for coming over and joining us. And I hope to see you again in our next webinar. That will be in the month of September. And the topic is assessment for student learning. Thank you so much.
Thank Dr. Thank Dr. Anita and thank all the participants and the co-host Simulek Sani to help us. Yep.
Yes, thank you so much, Sunny, for all your help.
Thank you so much for everyone for having this session. Yeah, for all the participants, we have announcements for you. Please check the link before this session's end. We have the information regarding the assignment. Okay. Yeah, please check this information to get the whole information regarding the assignment. May you take a picture or take a screenshot of this preview. Okay, thank you very much for everyone for having us today. We'll see you again for the next webinar. Bye bye, and we will leave soon.